Everyone, welcome back to Culture Confidence with Cecilia. That's me. I'm Cecilia, your host and your guide to cross-cultural communication skills. Today we have a special treat for you. Instead of our usual videos where I'm telling you different things about cross-cultural communication, helping you build new skills, we're doing an interview. So I am very excited for you to meet our guest today. Welcome to Culture Confidence, Sammy. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. My name is Sammy. I'm 29 years old. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, and I left the US in year 2019, and I've been traveling around the world while working remotely.
Yeah, so you left the US actually the same time as me.
Oh,
and we've both
okay.
been working remotely since then. That's really cool. So currently, the company you're working for, is it a global company?
So I work for multiple companies, and they're based in the Middle East of the country of Qatar.
Okay, so are you mostly working with other Middle Easterners, or you're working with Americans who are also working for those companies?
Mostly Middle Easterners and mixed people from different countries as well. So Filipino, Indian, Arab, different Arab countries as well.
Okay, so majority not Americans.
Most 99% of the time, I'm not working with Americans, correct?
Okay, so as an American, what are some of the interesting things that you've come across in those situations working cross-culturally?
I don't know. It's just a different type and of work, obviously, and a very different mindset when it comes to approaching work as well. I do feel that there's a difference in communication and deadlines as well.
Ooh, okay. So you mentioned deadlines. Everything else is a little bit
I don't know.
vague. So tell me.
I just feel in the US, it's a culture where they take deadlines extremely seriously, but from where I'm working right now, country of Qatar, I feel they don't really take them as seriously as in the US.
So deadlines are a little bit more fluid. They're flexible, unlike in America, where it's like, okay, done by this day, and then it better be done.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, interesting. And what are some of the other differences that you found? Like, do you find that people are more interested in work-life balance than they are back in the US?
No, not necessarily. I feel people work more out here in Qatar, and there's not like a specific time. Sometimes I get calls at 8 or 9 p.m. and it's I mean I answer when I can, but and I know it's at the same time they're not being rude, it's just the culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's very normal for someone to call you at 8 or 9. At the same time, they don't expect you to pick up, but if you do pick up, it's something very normal.
Oh, wow. So that's got to be a pretty shock, when you're coming from the US, a lot of times, unless you're like at a CEO level, you're not
Right.
expected to answer work calls outside of work hours.
Exactly. So most of the time after 5 p.m., you're not really getting any calls in the US for sure.
What are some of the things that you have learned through this experience that have made it easier for you to work with your colleagues?
I think just understanding the perspective and understanding where people are coming from, and it's a different culture, so people have different beliefs as well. And
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, people don't take deadlines too seriously, and it could be a positive thing as well. There could be many positives that come of that as well. I think people are less stressed than in the US. So yeah.
So even though they might have work going on at different times, like outside of work hours, you say you think they might be less stressed. What makes it seem like they're less stressed?
I don't know, even if they have so much on their plate, it doesn't feel that they need to finish it immediately.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So it's more true they're working longer hours, but at the same time there's not a specific deadline, so it relieves a lot of stress at the same time.
Yeah. So are there any interesting aspects of working with your coworkers that are different than you would have experienced in, say, an American company?
I would say yes, because the culture is very different, and at the same time I feel that people in the Middle East are more kind. So I don't feel they're just coworkers like in the States, like we're meeting from 8 to 5. but
Mhm.
I feel that it's more of a friendship. For example, we share our food together, breakfast, we order food. It's like my food is their food as well. We have one fridge that we all share. I just found it as a very different experience than in the United States.
So that would be when you're in the office. What about even when you're outside of the office? Are there any conversations you have with coworkers that you think would never happen when you're back in the US? For example, I was recently speaking with some of my South Korean clients, and they were telling me that they don't even do small talk at work. It's like if you go talk to your coworker, you just go right into the work conversation. And unless you're close friends with your coworker, you're not asking them any personal questions. How is
That
it with
Yeah, I feel that's completely the opposite in the Middle East, in Qatar, because sometimes I like to work in the office, but I choose to work. Certain days I just choose to work from home because I get too distracted in the office. There's a lot of small talks going on, and
Okay, what kind of small talk questions are you getting in the office that are taking up a lot of time? Like, what do they ask?
I think everything, just life in general. Yeah, we can just talking about the weather can take an hour, you know. So yeah.
Are there well, so like in my experience, when you're working with Middle Easterners, a lot of times they're going to ask you about family and politics in a way that's not very common in the US. Is that something you experience?
Yeah, it's very normal to talk about politics, very normal to talk about family, your personal life. It's extremely normal. So we talk about everything.
When you first moved to Qatar and were working in this company, was any of that a shock to you coming from the US?
It was a culture shock. To be honest, the first 6 months, I wanted to go back to the States because I just felt I couldn't adapt into the culture. But I'm glad I didn't, actually. I learned a lot and I saw things from a different perspective as well. And it's been a good experience so far. Yep.
Yeah, so it
It's
sounds
got positives and negatives for sure, but I feel I like it better than the States for now. Yeah.
Oh, so tell me something that made it better in the end, because after first 6 months, that's pretty typical for the cultural shock period of time. You go through
Right.
this phase and then you come out of it and you like everything better. So what stood out at the end?
I think this was really the friendships, like the bonds that I had with people out there. I felt they're more of a family than just coworkers. So I think that's something I really didn't get in the States.
Let's imagine you're going to meet an American who's going to join your team and they've never been outside the US before. What are some tips you would give them? What are some pieces of advice you would give?
I'd probably give them a heads up that there will be a culture shock waiting for them, but there will be a lot of positive things after that culture shock as well. But probably for the tips, like I'd tell them, don't take things too personal. If you send an email and you don't get a response, or it'll take 1 week to get a response, don't take it personal. Doesn't mean that they're not taking you seriously. Just means that it's the culture and they don't take emails too seriously.
So
Yeah,
what
just be
should they do? Like if they're waiting a week for an email response, do they need to start following up every day?
Yes, I would follow up. I'd follow up on WhatsApp. I would give a call, and it's just something you have to get used to. Yeah,
So definitely not just send another email, but go through a different route that's more personal.
exactly. Yes, exactly. I would go through a more personal route for sure.
So what should your coworker do the first time someone tries to do small talk about politics? Because in America, it's a very divisive topic. How should they respond?
Just get into the discussion. Don't just talk about politics. I mean, you're in a new culture and everyone, it's a normal, it's a social norm. So definitely I would adapt to it. And if you're gonna live in a new country, then of course, then I would adapt to the country. And if people like to talk about politics all day, they'll get offended if someone wants to talk about politics or anything of that sort.
So just be more relaxed about it. Speak their opinion, whatever their opinion is. There's nothing to be worried about. Like in the States, you have to be careful. What is your opinion? Don't say it.
Yeah, it's a pretty liberal country. You can speak your opinion, and most of the time, even if I do speak about politics, and if I have a different point of view, I can still say that. And most of the time, people do respect my opinion.
All right. Well, Sammy, thank you so much for your time today. I'm really, excited to learn more about Qatar. It's one of the countries I haven't spent much time in, I don't know much about. And so you've given us some great insight into what someone can expect if they're working in Qatar or the Middle East as an American.
Well, thank you as well. Thank you for having me, and I hope to see you in Qatar someday. I'll show you around.
Sounds amazing. All right. Take
All
care. Have
right.
a great
Have
day.
a good one. Bye bye.
Bye.